You beat Thor.
Yes, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, so all right, we're back again. Another video. I'm not going to be every day, but I'm going to at least do once a week for sure. Regardless, whatever's going down, once a week is a must. JJ claims that he could beat Thor in a boxing match. Now, I will say right off the bat, I don't want to totally clickbait you guys. He did acknowledge right after that he took it back, that he said,
I'll take back my statement. I don't think I'll beat Thor. I think it'd actually be long. I think it'd be long.
Maybe he was going a little too far with that claim. But he did say some things, and since he posed the question, we are here to break it down and see the potential. I see in the comments and in the replies that a lot of you are taking KSI, some of you guys are taking Thor. But let's break it down and see how realistic or what the potential is, right? If even JJ could take on someone like Thor, right? Would KSI's speed, agility, experience outweigh Thor' ability to land very powerful shots, right? And based off of Thor's ability so far. One of the things JJ was saying that, Thor would be very slow, which means that it would be very difficult for Thor to connect with JJ. Now, that is true. It would be very difficult for Thor to connect with JJ cleanly, depending on the size of the ring, right? Smaller quarters, it would be easier because you can cut off the ring. And JJ's initial thought was, I can just kind of get out of the way. I'll be able to avoid his punches. The only thing we've ever seen close to this is Logan Paul and Floyd and Oscar De La Hoya versus Shaquille O'Neal. With Shaq and Oscar, it was a lot of dancing around by Oscar to avoid, the big punches from Shaq. Here's a few things I want you guys to understand. The size difference is insane. When we watched Vidal and Eddie Hall, Vidal's obviously bigger than JJ, right? Cruiserweight, not a small dude. He looked tiny versus Eddie Hall. Obviously, Eddie Hall is gigantic. We knew that Vidal wasn't going 100%, but still Eddie was able to be effective at some points and landed some good shots. But he's a big guy compared to Vidal. And I don't know if you guys remember, but when Eddie Hall and Thor stand next to each other, there is still a big difference between just those two guys. Thor was taller, right? He's like 6'9", 300 and something crazy pounds. And JJ is smaller than Vidal. So the size difference would just be so insane. JJ would have a hard time staying away from Thor, but trying to land a punch or a combination would be so difficult because of how big Thor is. You're not going to want to get close to him. So to try to find opportunities to close the gap, to land punches, even to his body, because to go to his head, he's going to have to lunge and leap and leave himself open. It would be very difficult for JJ to land punches. Now, even if he was able to land punches, there's no way he's going to knock out Thor, right? Unless you land something on the chin, but still going to be very difficult to land it and land it clean enough to take out somebody that's that much heavy. Not all of you guys will remember this, but in Fight Night, one of the original Fight Nights, you were able to take heavier weight class guys and have them fight against the lower weight class guys. And it was so funny because the smaller weight guys would land like 100, 200 punches, and the HP on one guy would just barely go down. And then one punch would be landed by the heavyweight, and it'd be practically a knockout. So the thing is, he'd have to avoid a lot of punches, and he wouldn't be able to cover, and shell. You'd have to completely evade everything. Because we remember Vidal mentioning just the punches off the gloves, feeling the weight and the power of Eddie throwing those punches. Now imagine someone like Thor throwing those punches, going off your gloves. You do not want that. However, there is a world where I can see JJ winning a boxing match. Now, what I mean by that is you say you get 3 2-minute rounds, and you got the biggest ring that you can get in boxing. There's a situation where you can see JJ survive long enough, which means move around enough and use his footwork and angles and try to gas out Thor, because the conditioning is part of it. And maybe 5 rounds, right? You can go there if you can get him tired out. But JJ's ability to score points, he might be able to outscore him and keep that kind of mental count in his head that he's landing enough punches to win the rounds off points. But he's not going to beat him up, right? Even punches to the body. There's a video of Thor and Conor McGregor, and I feel like that's a more similar perspective of what it would look like, because Thor was a lot bigger then, so he'd be a little bit slimmer, and obviously JJ's a bit bigger than Conor, but still, that's the similarities I think you would see in size-wise. And with boxing gloves, I'm not sure JJ or anyone, unless you're a bigger guy like Vidal, right, with that experience and that kind of power and that kind of size to be able to hurt Thor at that size. Now, personally, I'd have to agree with JJ's redactment of his statement when he said that it would be a long night. That would not be a fight that you would want to take. It would be so difficult because there's so many challenges that present himself. Now, yes, Thor would be slow, and of course the cardio aspect would be on JJ's side, but the danger factor of Thor, he boxed pretty well. He has good technique. He understands the game. He's not just out there just swinging punches. He looks for his jab. He tries to cut off the ring. He followed up with his combinations. He was looking for good shots. So it's not like you're just boxing someone who doesn't know how to fight at all. And if it was the Thor that just started boxing, I would give JJ a much better chance. I do personally think there's a chance JJ can win, but he would definitely be the underdog going into a fight like that. No head guards in actual fight. Now, if they were to spar, I do think that would be worse. Now, what do I mean by that? When you spar and you have the head guards, it can give you a sense of protection, that you can take more punches. So I feel like Thor would be putting on more pressure and taking more risk. And I think JJ would feel safer with the head guard, even though you're super nervous. But whenever you're sparring in comparison to fighting, with head guards and without, you got that extra added protection in the pocket and things like that. So I would rather JJ be full of fear on a fight night and have him dancing around in 100% cardiovascular shape, and have him just moving around and be super cautious than kind of sparring. He would obviously still be, cautious in sparring, but I feel like you need that kind of fight fear to be able to be elusive enough to stay away from a guy as big and as dangerous as Thor. But I wouldn't just outright say that it would be a one-sided victory or a KO or he would get demolished. I think it would be challenging for Thor too. I know he looks quite slow, but here's the thing. You can get away with being slow when you're that tall, when you got giant legs and you got long arms. You can get away with it. Because you cover so much more ground. Every 5 shuffles of mine is 2 or 1.5 of his, right? My jab compared to him, I got a triple jab just to cover the same distance where he only needs to throw 1 jab. When he steps in and does the jab cross, you can shuffle out of the way, but when you land, you're still within his range. He can still throw that punch. So there is some give and take when it comes to somebody's height and reach and their speed factor, because when they can cover up that much ground and that much airspace, it just becomes a whole different puzzle to solve. I think it'll be pretty exciting to watch that, right? That sparring, to see how long, or what JJ could do in terms of avoiding the heavy punches and just trying to deal with that kind of, it's like Logan, but the height and the reach factor. But Thor is a half a foot tall. And then the weight difference being like, 100 pounds or more? That's ridiculous. That's like when I'm sparring and training with my students, if the student weighs 90 pounds and I weigh 190, that 100 pounds is a giant difference. So now if I'm throwing, oh my gosh, I know it's a difference between an adult, but if I'm fighting an adult who's only 90 pounds, the punches aren't going to feel like much. And if they're, we're talking a foot shorter? We're talking a full 10 inches shorter. So that's like me fighting someone 5 feet, 60 pounds. That is a child. That is crazy. Now with the athleticism of an adult, but that's just, even if I was a lot slower, I'm just going to cover up walking down and just bam, bam, bam. I do think that would be a fun video for the community, though. You can make it a way that it's fun if they have like a good spar, not like a competitive spar where it's dangerous. Just because it's just not smart. If Thor's going to throw full power punches, it's just not a really smart thing to do because of the opportunity of JJ getting really hurt, because the size difference is weight classes for a reason, people. This is the main reason. But it would be fun to see them kind of play tag and see how JJ would be able to deal with that. And Thor did respond, and he's quite confident. It seemed quite playful, but hopefully they put something together, even if it's for jokes. I think that would be a cool collab. But let me know what you think. Alex Wasabi responded to KSI, but hopefully we hear something soon. Leave a like and subscribe. Oos.